Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing. I want to welcome you to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast, where I get to interview guests who have not only traveled literally, like the guests we're going to talk to today, 70 countries, but get to travel into the inner realms, the vastness that's within us and get to be great explorers. That's what I love about the work that I do. And I'm inviting you today, listeners, to go on this inner journey. Hi, Lizzie.
Hello, Doreen. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm
Yeah,
so happy and excited to be here.
yeah, I can see it. I can feel it. I'm ready. And I think the guest, my listeners just heard your voice and can see that there's a lot of aliveness in you. But there's a bio that you sent, and I'd like to read that because it's amazing to learn about you. Lizzie Siegel is my guest today. Lizzie Siegel is a resource and reality architect, subconscious freedom coach, and global grid worker who has traveled to over 70 countries, activating the Earth's energetic grids, sacred sites, and collective consciousness. And she works at the intersection of voice, frequency, and remembrance using sound, light language, and intuitive transmission to awaken what she calls divine source codes within the human system. And with a rare clairaudient gift, Lizzie hears beyond words, reading the energetic field of what is spoken, suppressed, and ready to be liberated. Her presence alone becomes a catalyst for transformation, dissolving deep-rooted patterns of fear, trauma, limitation, and recalibrating individuals at the level of identity, nervous system, and soul. She doesn't just help people find their voice, which is what we're about to listen to. She helps them remember who they were before they ever learned to silence it. And she doesn't just use her voice, she activates something within yours. And once that happens, there's no going back. And this is a soul signature frequency remembrance. I have to take a big breath to let all of that, those are a lot of words, but they are descriptions of not only who you are in your very essence, but what you're about, why you're even on this earth doing what you're doing, what you've been called to do, and what people get to have once they've been in your presence. I know I've been in your presence, and I've been, I would use that word, activated by what you bring to the moment. Thank you, Lizzie, for being here.
Mm, Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you also for your soul signature frequency and what you activate within not only me, but all the lives of the people you touch, because we're doing this together.
Yeah, that's interesting. Usually I start with early life, but I think what you just said is very, very important about the relational quality and how important being with others who are have a certain kind of, well, I guess you're calling it frequency, aliveness, a certain kind of openness to what's possible. And the I think you and I are both explorers,
Yes.
travelers. Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, I haven't counted how many, nearly, not nearly as much as yours. But so, yeah, before we move on into diving back into your history, it feels like the reason why I feel Lizzie is here on this earth is to serve what she's going to talk about today, give you her message, and take a breath and open up, because I think just listening to Lizzie will be a transformational experience.
Thank you.
You're
Let's
welcome.
all take a collective breath. Everybody who's here, just wherever you're at, I invite you to really just, if you're driving, keep your eyes open, please. To take a deep breath in through your nose, filling up your belly, your ribs, and your chest. Let it fill you up. Hold it when you get to the top. And open your mouth, sigh it out. We get to land here in our bodies.
Yeah.
Allow your breathing to just be full. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're anchored together. Can you feel that shift?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are the moments, those micro moments in between that I actually really live for. It's that pause, that little space that I think makes a huge difference. And silence is actually really important for a voice, for the message to be heard.
Yeah. That's where we bring in listening.
And you speak a lot about that and the act of listening.
Yeah, I do. What I felt right then when you said connection, and I'm imagining that those who are listening took that breath, and then uh, it's not just you and I connecting, it's we're now have a deeper energetic connection to those who are with us in this now moment, or if they're
Mm,
with us on the replay. Oh,
yeah.
so let's go and learn about how you came into this world, and just some, I guess, what you might call those facts, those details. I mean, you're a beautiful being and you came in as a beautiful being, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
but you landed somewhere. And usually where people land is a challenge. That's partly what we're here to do, is to learn how to face those challenges. So early on, what would you say when you look back around having a voice, not having a voice? What was that?
This is so glorious. Um, I love to say that I came in remembering. And I did. I remembered for quite a while before it was part of my agreement that I would forget and I'd fall back asleep. But I was very in tune as a little child. I was very connected. I was connected to other dimensions and other realms. And now that I'm older, I remember that. But at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just being me. And also, I learned and I heard the story from a very early age that my voice, my cry, even as a baby, was very disturbing, and that I would make people want to leave. And because it was so, I just cried all the time, and I was a grumpy child, and the only person, as a baby, the only person that could make me smile was my Opa. And so I grew up hearing these stories and really creating a world of words from these experiences. And it wasn't until much later that I uncovered that. But through this journey of agreeing to forget,
Mm.
there was a time around when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, when my Opa departed this world, that my connection to the unseen realms was severed. And not severed entirely, just forgotten. It went to sleep. It had a little shush. And that sent me on a beautiful many decade journey of not exactly knowing how to express myself always, and being clammed up in a lot of spaces, not sharing my voice super freely, knowing that I had to monitor, and things that I would say would scare others or disturb them or make them go, what's happening here and why does she know that? And so I just learned how to not say everything and how to be very guarded and very choosy with my words. So even though I would speak, it wasn't fully me, and it was a version of me. And this was part of the experience that I got to go through so that I could come to a place where that would no longer be how I wanted to live my life, let's say.
Uh-huh. Well, what a beginning to later on in life look back at when you arrived here. That's partly, it seems like what your message is we all have a remembrance, but we
Mm-hmm.
either uh, forgotten it or we haven't connected with it yet. We haven't been guided there. And I think that's one of the things that you do with your work is you help people go, oh, oh, I didn't know I remembered that I have a
Yeah.
remembrance because it's so deep and
Mm-hmm.
just it's so fascinating because this is you're rare on my show because the in terms of you having a sense of yourself as a little one being quite um, attuned
Mm-hmm.
to um, to the realms, other
Mm-hmm.
realms. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any moments that you might share that would give us a picture of what that looked like?
Yeah, actually, this one moment came back to me when I was um, maybe in my late 20s, early 30s, where I was being attuned into energy work and seeing how I could work through multiple dimensions and kind of like reach into the dimensions and work with the grids and the codes. This was part of what I do as a global grid worker. And I was like on one of my missions doing one of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I was transported back to a time when I was about, I want to say 5, maybe 6 years old. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was in my bedroom as a child and I must have been younger than 5 actually, maybe 4 or 5. And I was reaching to fix my dolly into its little hat. Oh, we got thumbs up. Cool. And pushing her into place. And I had OCD as a child. So I was had obsessive compulsive disorder to like a serious degree where I couldn't leave my room without putting everybody in their place and checking on everything and flattening everything out and like doing this work. But when I was transported to this memory, I realized, oh, I wasn't just pushing my dolly into its place. I was reaching into another dimension, doing some interdimensional work. And to everybody else on the outside, it looked like I was just fidgeting with my dolly or making sure that she was the way I wanted it before it was okay. But I was actually working with the energies. And until that was done, I wasn't able to leave it because I was doing really important work. And I remember my parents not really, I guess, knowing what to do. I went to a therapist and all these things, and all the other kids in the therapist office would like play with the toys and do the things. And I'd be the one there organizing everything, fixing everything into place, making sure that everything was copacetic, I guess, and freaking out when people were kind of getting in the way of the work that I was doing. And it wasn't until my parents they did the best that they could with all the tools and strategies they had and the advice they were given. They literally removed everything from my room and left me with my bed and my one bunny because it was really challenging for life, for their life, of course, especially because they didn't know what to do with what I was experiencing. And it didn't stop me from working with the dimensions, but it just changed the way that I operated within them. And so this is one experience where it's like we are so connected at every moment that when we have that remembrance, the reasons why everything happened the way that it happened helps us go, oh, it's all happening for us, through us, because it is us.
Ooh, for us, through us, because it is us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very profound. I'm so glad you gave us the insight the snapshot of that life moment for you. And I understand a little bit more about the challenge of having these tuning forks that are natural inside of you, which would
Mm,
then create anxiety, what looks like anxiety or diagnosed as anxiety, which I
mhm,
think in some ways as a psychologist, it really opens my mind to when I work with people with anxiety, what there's something else going on, not just what we call we got to treat the anxiety, right? Oh, yeah, I
oh
just got
yes.
that. And that uh it looks, yeah, I could see how on the outside to psychologists and therapists and parents, you look like a little anxious girl.
Hmm. Yeah. And I've had
But
the blessing. Can I share something with
yes,
this?
yes,
I've had the blessing. So I have a degree in psychology. I went to, into my undergrad degree is in psychology because I was fascinated by it. And this
yes,
led me to working with
yes.
children with abnormal psychology
Uh-huh.
because one of my classes was for that. And it led me into the schools. And I was a teacher for nearly 2 decades, an international American school teacher for nearly 2 decades. And I worked with a lot of kids with high anxiety, neurodivergence of all sorts. And this prepared me for this because there are so many neurodivergences that I believe are highly misunderstood
Yeah,
in Western culture, which other societies would call them gifts, would
yeah,
call them highly attuned to other dimensions. Like ADHD, I call it attention dialed into a higher dimension. There's something different going on there. And once we can actually learn to work with that in a different way from like the perspectives that I'm working with, it changes people's lives. And so the kids that I've gotten to work with and that people were like, oh yeah, put her in that class because she knows what to do with them. Give her all the anxious babies. So I would have at the beginning of the year like a class full of these anxious babies, and by the end of the year we have a transformation because they no longer have to be anxious because they get to learn how to use their gifts and they get
yeah.
to be who they really are.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that's about identity too, about
Mm-hmm.
learning who they are and accepting who they are. And even those people might, others like peers might be bullying or teasing, it feels like there's a stronger sense of connection to who you truly are, especially when it's been mirrored by somebody like you who, an
Mm-hmm.
authority.
Mm-hmm.
It helps to
Mm-hmm.
believe in yourself. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
This is already opening up for people, the listeners, I'm sure, some, oh, how did she do that? Well, since this is about voice and finding your voice, and we're moving into, well, so you said you went into this stage of probably leaving, taking a rest, I think is the word you use. Uh, and then, but then you, I'm going to use this phrase and put quotes around it. I guess it's something like woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I woke up and I remembered.
Yes, I woke up that I remembered.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It happened over a series of years, to be honest. There were some really key moments where I had experiences that can only be described as transcendental, where there was like, and some of them came from really difficult, oh, like tragic is not the correct exact word, but very difficult, challenging situations that totally altered the course of my life. One of them was a car accident. One of them was actually a lot of them were accidents, to be honest, but they were all places that helped me remember that I am divinely guided and protected, and so protected that there's no reason I should be here today. But because we are divine beings who have this ability to choose how it's going to go. And when we remember that, we actually get to play with reality. I still exist and in human physical form. And it was me hearing what now I know was just another version of me telling me what to do so that I could still be alive. And when I heard, so one accident, this was like a big catalyst that actually sent me into the place where I was like, I need to leave and go across the world for a while. I heard there was a really bad car accident my sister and I were in, and I heard right before it happened, hold on.
Mm.
And if I hadn't been holding on, it could have been really drastic because I was dumb. I was not wearing my seatbelt. I didn't, I was just young and dumb, and hey, and it saved my life, that hold on. And I knew from how I was so unscathed by what happened that that was divine guidance. And it kind of had this jolting moment for me in my life where I realized what I hear is very important to pay attention to. And what I say is also very, I still had to be careful. But it allowed me to have these stories that I knew I could tell in the right spaces, to share with other people who would resonate, and to start having these shared experiences and diving deeper into more of what is unseen and unheard.
Yeah, what is unseen and unheard. However, what you're saying is there's something about your ability or your gift is that you can hear the unheard.
Yeah.
Or,
And I believe that we all have this gift, truly. We all have all of the Claire skills. It's just a matter of learning how to work with them and develop them. And some are a little bit more natural to others.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me wonder about so the Claire skills. I just started to reflect on my own what might I have, and that there's you pointed to your ears.
We have clairaudience. We have claircognizance, which is like you just know stuff. Like you don't know why you know it, but you just know it. So clairaudience and claircognizance are my two greatest Claire skills. We have clairvoyance, where you see things. And
Uh,
it doesn't just mean like your eyes are open and you see things. It could be your eyes could be closed and you see things, or you could just get imagery like kind of in your mind. We have clairsentience, where you feel things, and it can be a physical feeling or connection, or kind of like an inner feeling. We have, okay, I never remember the names of the one where you taste things and you smell things, but they also have names. I won't pretend to remember them right now. And sometimes, you'll get those memories where you're like, why do I smell that thing
yes.
from my childhood?
Yeah.
Like there's this one specific smell of a ball that I had as a child. It was a scratch and sniff ball. Don't know why we had those.
Uh,
And I can smell it sometimes.
uh-huh.
And then Claire tasting,
Uh-huh.
when you have this taste in your mouth that you're remembering something. And so we all can tune into these different senses at different times. And if you practice with them, you actually can develop them even better. And some, like I said, just are very natural to you. And the intuition, people often know it and they feel it and they experience it. And this is a lot of clairsentience, but they maybe don't know how to work with it, or they maybe have been taught to ignore it. And it can show up for people different places in their bodies depending on their unique design.
Uh-huh. It just reminds me that those ways that you're just describing are like voices, and that this hearing the unheard that you talked about, and that, yeah, wow.
Oh,
So,
I love that description. That's
uh-huh,
brilliant. They are like voices.
uh-huh, yeah, yeah. Hello in there. It's just like, wow, what you're opening up for us today is not just the magnificence, but it's a beautiful to complexity. And, complex feels like, oh, it's all twisted up, but it's a beautiful, brilliant complexity is what I'm getting today from you.
Nature is inherently simple, yet richly complex.
Ah, here we are.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, moving along on your journey, there's besides the moments it seems like in all those 70 countries where you had experiences, accidents, wake up calls, and listening, learning how to be more of who you are meant to be, or who you are now. What are some of the, if you have something to say or tell us about how you actually claimed these Claire skills, or you really moved out of being, I mean, I think you're still, like you say to me, that, and I think we always are evolving, let's put it that way.
Mhm.
So you aren't just, hello, Miss Guru.
Mhm.
You're all done growing. No, I
Yeah,
understand that. But
yeah,
just there seems to be something where you've really said, you claimed it, I guess.
yeah. Thank you for asking that. So this is my experience was really challenging, difficult, I would even say, and really, really, really even hard. And I just want to preface this with it doesn't have to be this hard. We actually can go through this journey in a really joyful, loving, beautiful way. You do not have to get to rock bottom in order for it to happen. And so that is what I want the takeaway to be, that you don't have to do it the hard way. I've already done it the hard way. If you want to do it the hard way, go ahead, do it the hard way. But there are people in this world who can help you, so you don't have to do it the hard way. But I did it the hard way because I needed to go on this journey myself and know things for myself. I had a series of unfortunate events, as I like to call them. I was in an accident. I broke something, got in another accident, was so sick. And it was because I was not listening to my intuition. My intuition was trying to tell me gently, 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 hey, wake up. Hey, pay attention. This job, this relationship, this place, it's not for you. And I was just being me and being so stubborn and thinking that my conscious mind knew better. And I was also in survival mode. And so when you're in survival mode, your scope narrows, and it is very hard for you to do anything but survive and to pay attention to anything but your basic needs. And so I didn't have the capacity, nor did I have the tools to even breathe properly, so that I could take a beat, take a breath, and pause and pay attention to what's going on around me. So I not only did I have an accident, but my back was really injured. And the doctors wanted to fuse my spine together. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. We can't go on that route. What else is there? And at the right moment, information dropped into my field from Dr. Joe Dispenza, where he had been in an accident and had healed his spine without needing surgery. And I was like, well, if he can do it, so can I. And I went on this journey. Yeah.
Because you're talking about the break, it reminded me that I need to take a break. And this
Oh,
is,
yeah.
we're
Perfect.
mid-story here. So we get to come back. So we'll be right back with Lizzie Siegel in just a second.
If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing with Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. And I'm back today with Lizzie Siegel, who's mid-story about her journey to, I hate to use the word wake up, because it's not just a one moment thing. It was, in what we're learning today is there are events, accidents, ways in which the universe was saying, hello, here, there's more for you. Don't get stuck. And so
Mm.
here you are, about to consider some kind of back surgery, fuse the spine or something. And you said no. And what happened next? You said something about somebody who
I,
inspired you.
yes, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I found his work at this time that he had healed his back and refused surgery, and it was even worse than mine. So through meditation and energy work and things like that, I think he did it purely through meditation. But I was still like, well, if he can do it, so can I. And my friend at the time had said, and my friend hurt their back and they got really into yoga and it helped them. So I was like, okay, yoga, okay, meditation, sign me up. What can I do? And I started practicing yoga and breath work and meditation. And there was a profound moment that I will never forget, where I was sitting on my yoga mat after a breathwork meditation session, and it was quiet in my mind. And for the first time in what I felt like was my entire life, I was like, my eyes popped open and I was like, is that what people mean when it's quiet in there? When their mind goes quiet? Because I
Uh-huh.
had never experienced that. It was always very loud in my mind.
Uh-huh.
And I was hooked. And so I kept being devoted to the practice. And I went again and again and again back to the practice of yoga and breath work and meditation. And I was like, I need to learn more. And so I dove into the studies of yoga. I became a yoga teacher, all the things. And then I was I was healing. I was getting better. My back didn't hurt anymore. I was so capable. It was just like a miracle. And then COVID times happened, and there was a big shift in my relationship that I was in at the time. And in this relationship, while it was so beautiful and I wouldn't change it for the world, I want to share the experience of this because I think that it will help some people identify and just evaluate what's going on for them. I felt like I was a secret the entire time. And I didn't feel like I really could be, like I was very much me within that small bubble, but I was a version of me that was not the best version of me. And I would never say anything outside of that bubble of the relationship. And I was kind of kept a secret of that relationship. And it was weird, to be honest. It was weird. And it was also beautiful and expansive all at the same time. And there was so much love and support, but so much toxicity and so much strife. And I really lost myself in that relationship. I abandoned myself in order to get the love that I thought that I needed. And obviously at the time, that was what I needed. Yet I made me not be fully me within that relationship. And it wasn't until the COVID times happened and there was a lot more time and space to be quiet and to think and I also lived in the Middle East at that time. And so we had like a weird lockdown where everything was just shut down. We were in our houses almost all the time. And we had 2 hours of outdoor time a day. And I remember that in those moments of quietness, because I had so much time to myself, I actually got to hear my own voice, but I ignored it. I even said to my mother, I think I need to exit this relationship. And, I was still outsourcing all my power then. And I listened to all the outside voices that said, don't do anything crazy during COVID. Like, don't change your life too much. Don't be too drastic. Just hang tight. And so I didn't listen to my inner voice. I listened to the outer voices, all of them. And I got so sick. I developed a bunch of autoimmune diseases. My body was screaming at me. It was attacking itself, and I got so sick. And it wasn't until this moment where I literally had an absolute breakdown that led to a breakthrough that lent me on a journey to go to Thailand and for yoga, which I thought it was for yoga, but it was actually for energy healing. And I learned energy healing. I got tuned into realms that I remembered. I got tuned back into the energetic realms of the galactic realm, the angelic realm, all the divine beings that were here to support me in my journey. And that really helped change my life. And then sound healing found me really shortly after. And then this trajectory within about 6 months, I was like, okay, we got to change it. And I started listening. And I also could see the dis-ease leaving my body. I knew I was getting better. I could literally see it line up and leave my body through all this energetic work that I was doing. And the last thing that I had to do was leave this relationship. And as soon as that happened, there was also like another thing that happened in the middle where I was supposed to get my hip replaced because something happened in there. And this moment of the doctors being like, yeah, you need a full hip replacement, led me to a doctor who was like, wait a minute, have you experienced trauma in your life? And I was like, yes. He was the first doctor who had ever looked at me like a whole person and wondered what was going on. He said, tell me more. And so I told him all the things. And I said, but I don't think I have these diseases anymore. I think I'm better now. But I'm taking, and he's like, yeah, this medicine you're taking is what's deteriorating your bones, your hips, everything. I got off this medicine, went through more testing, and he's like, yeah, you don't have any markers of the disease anymore. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it because I had healed all of that. But it was just letting go of these last little remnants of misalignment that allowed me to find my voice, to come back to myself, to share this story, to even share what was going on in that relationship that was not okay. And that changed everything.
Uh-huh. Well, there's a word you just used, misalignment, which feels like partly what I'm taking from our conversation today. All the ways in which, by not listening, by not paying attention to voices, the inside of you, the smart ones, the wise ones, the ones from the soul, instead listening to the outer voices, how you either got hurt or collapsed or in those ways injured, self-injured. And you use this phrase, by not listening to yourself, you abandoned yourself. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something we're taking today from you. Before we come to an end, I want to make sure and come back to nowadays and what you are offering and how people might, well, we'll have show notes so people can look you up and find you. But so what do you get to do nowadays?
Now I get to help other beautiful sovereign beings. And I say help, but really I'm just guiding, I'm walking alongside of them as they remember the truth of who they are. And I get to share with people different codes of remembrance to get them beyond the places where they're stuck and they're self sabotaging and they're looping in cycles that are no longer serving them, and help them expand beyond that. They get to recalibrate their nervous system. They get to reprogram their subconscious mind with me. And they get to take inspired and aligned action in the direction of their desires. And I hold them lovingly accountable to that journey. And I don't just work with them and then say bye. I work with them and journey with them as they move through the parts that is, I think, often some of the most challenging for people is taking the action, because it's fine to do the rituals, it's fine to do the transformative work behind the scenes. And then in the physical reality world, the world is a mirror. We have to take the action, because we don't go to the mirror, poke at the mirror, tell the mirror to smile. No, we know we smile first, and then the reflection smiles back at us. And so just like dominoes don't fall over on their own, you got to flick them. We have to flick the domino, the first domino, to send the chain event. And I get to support people in that journey.
Well, that I've never heard such a description of how change happens, or how somebody who has gifts like you do can work with people, being uh, not just the inner realms, but also the outer. How important both are, and I get how you value both very much,
Mhm.
and that there isn't. I mean, not just value it. That's the truth.
Yeah, we can't just do the inner work and not the outer work. And at the same token, we can't just do all the forcing action of the outer world and
Yes.
expect that the inside's going to change, because that's when we see the disconnect, where you go back to the old behaviors or the back to the whatever the self-sabotaging stuff is, instead of really creating sustainable change from a place of self-led service. Because when we really think about service, if we're not including ourself in it, what are we even doing? That's just pleasing. That's not service. That's people pleasing dressed up in some kind of fancy costume. But true service means we serve ourselves first, so that we can then be of the most service to everybody else around us.
Let's take a breath together. And the breath, I think people who are listening, if you take a breath, you'll be able to hold what Lizzie has been able to share with us today, not just only the messages, but as I said earlier, there's a transmission going on. She's just, by her presence, she's sending us energy that will help whatever it is we need help with. Is that true? Yes.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for blessing this space today, Lizzie. And it feels like in our relationship, we're going to be continuing dancing together into realms yet to be explored.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited for that. Thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to everybody else who is listening at whatever point in the here now that you're listening, for sharing your precious time and energy with us and creating this beautiful collective space.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.